So the last part that I'm going to read is also from the middle of the book, and it immediately follows the last scene of the site visits. "How does it go again?" he asked, flipping through the old yellowed pages filled with the words of Dostoevsky. "If God doesn't exist, then everything is permissible. Really makes sense, doesn't it, after a day like today?" I laughed. It was a sad sort of laugh, the kind of laugh that comes out when you've not hope enough to cry or grow angry, because anger means you still think there's something on the other side of it. "So there is no God, then," I said, shaking my head. "You know, sometimes it really makes me think about reincarnation." "You're kidding." "How else can you explain it? Why should I be so lucky? Fate? Chance? It can't be so simple." "You really believe that?" he said with an appalled look. I laughed. "Oh, I don't know. I suppose it just helps me to ease the guilt, the idea that I somehow worked my way up to this." I poured us each another glass of wine. "You know, if I think of all the things I was unprepared for when I came here, the guilt I feel would be at the top of the list." "What do you feel so guilty for?" Did he not feel it too? Why was I so lucky? Just to be born where I was born? What did I do to deserve it? How do you reconcile yourself to it if there's no reason for it? How can I go back now, knowing my life is so undeserved? But at least you realize that, and you feel an obligation to fix it. Not many people do. That must count for something, the fact that you feel a responsibility to do something about it, to help people less fortunate. "Oh, you really think your 2 or 3 years here are some grand gesture?" John looked at me a moment. I could see he was surprised by my bitterness. I was surprised by it as well. I hadn't meant to sound so accusing. I took a deep breath. I was tired. I shook my head. "I'm sorry, I just can't figure it out, and sometimes, like you said, after a day like today, it's very difficult." "Look, you can't keep beating yourself up about it. It'll drive you mad. If you really need to, assign some meaning to it, call it God, whatever you want. But you have to move on. Don't let it consume you," he said, taking a sip of his wine. "You have to think about the people today, all the people we're going to help with our project. That's what's important, not wondering if it all means anything. So what if it doesn't? Would you not do it then?" "Of course not," I said indignantly. "But I suppose we won't unravel it all tonight, will we? It's getting late." "Yeah, I guess you're right. Better rest up for another big day. Good night, Lily," he said as he took the last gulp of his wine. I went outside to brush my teeth, and when I came back, he had disappeared into the spare room. I turned off the lights and retreated to my room. I lay down in bed exhausted. What was it I had been trying to say anyway? It all started with Dostoevsky. Then the guilt. Assign some meaning to it and move on. How could he look at things so simply? Men look at life like that. But that was an easy way out. Perhaps I did make too much of it. The world is chaos and we're all just trying to do our best, or at least most of us are. There is no meaning. God does not exist. Everything is permissible. If you can still do your best in the face of all that, it must be worth something. Whether it means anything or not, it has to be worth something.